There are certain rules that don't exist to protect the people who follow them. They exist to protect the people who made them. On the Belmont estate in Warren County, Mississippi, there was one rule bigger than all others. It was enforced so strictly that even the overseer felt uneasy talking about it. No worker, under any circumstances, for any reason, was allowed to step inside the locked room on the second floor of the East Wing. The punishment was not a whipping or reassignment. It was immediate and total removal from the property, complete and permanent. What made grown men obey this rule, without question, wasn't just the threat. It was the look in Master Belmont's eyes when he spoke of it. A look that said the punishment would feel like mercy compared to whatever waited behind that door. This is what happened when that rule was broken. March 1861 came to Warren County with an unusual cold. Thick fog rose from the Mississippi River like cotton every morning. The Belmont Plantation covered 800 acres of rich bottomland. The main house stood 3 stories tall with white columns that looked like bones in the early light. 47 people lived and worked on the estate. 32 were enslaved. They worked the cotton fields, the house, the stables, and the orchards. 15 were white, the Belmont family, the overseer, and a few hired hands who came and went with the seasons. The estate ran like clockwork under Master Thomas Belmont, a 43-year-old man who had inherited the property from his father in 1854. Thomas was known across Warren County for his strange habits. Breakfast at exactly 6 o'clock every morning. The same walk through the property every afternoon at 3 o'clock. He spoke very little and smiled even less. His wife Constance had died in 1858, or so the family doctor said, from a sudden fever. Their 2 children still lived in the main house, Margaret, 16, and Thomas Jr., 13. Margaret had been taught by private tutors and hadn't attended any social event in over 2 years. The boy was described by the few who saw him as weak and delicate. The overseer, Hugh Garrett, had worked there for 6 years. By the harsh standards of the time, he was considered fair. He rarely used the whip, and never without what he thought was good reason. But Hugh Garrett had one rule he gave to every new worker, every hired hand, every visitor who came to the estate. The East Wing, second floor, the door at the end of the hallway. You do not go near it. You do not look at it. You do not talk about it. And if you value your life and your place here, you do not ask questions about it. The door itself looked ordinary, solid oak, brass handle turned dull green from age. What made it different was its place and its locks. The East Wing's second floor was almost never used. For bedrooms lined the hallway, all empty, furniture covered in yellowed white sheets. Windows stayed shuttered year-round, so the hallway stayed in permanent half-darkness even at noon. The locked room was at the very end. It had 3 separate locks, something unusual that people noticed but never dared mention. Master Belmont carried the keys on a chain inside his vest. He never took it off, not even to sleep. Twice a week, Tuesday and Friday afternoons, Master Belmont would climb the East Wing stairs alone. He carried a canvas bag no one ever saw opened. He unlocked the 3 locks, stepped inside, and closed the door. Exactly 2 hours later he came out. His face always looked the same, tired and strangely satisfied. The canvas bag looked lighter when he carried it back downstairs. No one cleaned the East Wing. No one opened the shutters. No one entered those 4 bedrooms or walked that hallway unless Master Belmont ordered it, which happened maybe 3 times a year, always for small repairs far from the locked door. The rule was absolute. For 6 years, no one had broken it. Samuel was 19 in March 1861, born on the Belmont estate. His parents were sold away when he was 7. He had never left the plantation boundaries. He knew every building, every path, every hidden corner. He worked mostly in the stables and orchards. Hugh Garrett trusted him with jobs that needed quick thinking, fixing fences alone, delivering messages to neighbors, managing the horses' feeding. On the morning of March 14, 1861, Samuel was sent to fix a section of roof on the main house. Winter storms had loosened shingles. The work meant going through an attic crawl space that opened onto the 3rd floor. The accident happened because of a rotten beam. Samuel was crossing the attic with his tools when the wood cracked under his feet. He fell straight through the ceiling, landing hard on his shoulder in a second-floor hallway. Debris rained down around him. Pain shot through his arm. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. When his eyes cleared, his blood turned to ice. He was lying in the East Wing hallway, only 10 feet from the locked door. Panic hit him instantly, not from the pain, but from where he was. He scrambled up despite his shoulder and started moving toward the stairs. He had to get out before anyone saw him. Then he heard it, a sound from behind the locked door, very quiet. If he had been walking, he would have missed it. But in the dead silence of that shuttered hallway, it was clear. Someone was crying. Not loud sobbing. Not wild weeping. It was soft, steady breathing. The sound of someone who had cried so long they had no tears left. The sound of pure exhaustion. Samuel froze. The crying continued, never louder, never stopping. Under it, almost too faint to hear, came another sound. A slow, rhythmic creaking, like someone rocking back and forth in a chair. Every part of him screamed to run. But something held him there. Not curiosity exactly, but a sick, horrified feeling he couldn't name. The crying stopped. Silence fell. Then, footsteps. Light footsteps coming closer to the door from inside. Samuel ran. He told no one. He reported the roof damage and his fall to Hugh Garrett. Showed his injured shoulder as proof. Said nothing about where he landed or what he heard. For 3 days he tried to convince himself he imagined it. The hallway was dark. He was dazed from the fall. His mind played tricks. But on the 4th day, he made a mistake. He was working in the stable with Joseph, an older man who had been on the estate over 20 years. While grooming a horse, after a long quiet moment, Samuel asked the question he had been fighting. Joseph, that room in the east wing, the locked one nobody goes near. How long has it been locked? Joseph's hand stopped. He didn't turn around. Don't, he said quietly. Don't ask about that room. Don't think about it. And never speak of it again. No. Joseph finally turned. His face was serious. Listen to me, boy. There are things on this place better left alone. That room is one of them. Master Belmont ain't like other men. There's something broken inside him, something twisted long ago. And whatever is in that room is part of it. But if someone is in there... Joseph's eyes widened. You heard something. It wasn't a question. Samuel's silence answered. Oh Lord. Joseph set the brush down. His hand shook a little. You fell through that ceiling, didn't you? The one they've been talking about fixing. You landed in the east wing. Samuel nodded. And you heard something from inside the room. Another nod. Joseph closed his eyes for a moment. You can't tell anyone else. Not Hugh Garrett. Not the other workers. Nobody. And you have to put it out of your mind. How can I forget if someone is suffering in there? Because, Joseph said, voice hard now, there ain't nothing you can do. Nothing any of us can do. And if you try, if you even look like you're thinking about trying, Master Belmont will know. And then you'll disappear. Just like the others. Samuel felt ice in his stomach. What others? Joseph turned back to the horse. I've already said too much. Just forget it, Samuel. For your own sake. But Samuel couldn't forget. Joseph's words only made the mystery bigger. Who were the others who disappeared? He started watching more carefully. He noticed things he had never paid attention to before. Master Belmont's Tuesday and Friday afternoon visits to the locked room. Always exactly 2 hours. Always with the canvas bag. The way Margaret sometimes stood at her bedroom window on the opposite wing, staring toward the east wing with a look that wasn't fear. More like quiet surrender. The fact that Master Belmont no longer invited guests. The house that once had big dinners and parties now stayed silent. Dining room unused, parlor doors closed. And one more thing Samuel found by accident, while organizing supplies in the storage room under the kitchen. Medical supplies. A lot of them. Bandages. Bottles of laudanum. Carbolic acid. Several unmarked bottles with Latin writing he couldn't read. Far more than any normal household needed for small injuries or sickness. Someone was being treated regularly, long-term. Samuel decided to do something dangerous. He would watch the east wing at night. The main house had an old oak tree growing close to the eastern side. Its branches almost touched the second-floor shutters. From that tree, he could see the east wing windows without being seen from the ground. He picked a moonless night in late March. Waited until after midnight, when the estate was dark and quiet. He moved silently through shadows, climbed the oak, and settled where he could watch. For an hour, nothing. He started feeling foolish. Then light. A faint glow came through the cracks in the shutters of the locked room. Someone had lit a lamp inside. Samuel stopped breathing. He pressed closer to the trunk, eyes fixed on that thin line of light. Shadows moved behind the shutters. 2 shadows. One tall, one shorter. The tall one moved back and forth with purpose. The shorter one stayed still, near what Samuel guessed was the far wall. They stayed like that for maybe 20 minutes. Then the light went out. The wing fell back into darkness. Samuel waited another hour. Nothing more. Cold and stiff, he climbed down and slipped back to the quarters. He had confirmed one thing. Master Belmont visited the room at night too, not just in the afternoon. And whoever was inside wasn't alone. The real trouble started on a Tuesday morning in early April. Samuel was carrying firewood to the kitchen when he almost ran into Margaret Belmont in the narrow back hallway. She stepped back quickly, eyes down like she'd been taught. At 16, Margaret had pale skin, almost see-through, from staying inside too much. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her dress was fine but hung loose on her thin body. "Sorry, miss," Samuel said, stepping aside. Margaret nodded and started to pass. Then she stopped. "You're Samuel?" she asked quietly. It wasn't really a question. "Yes, miss." She looked down the hallway, checking they were alone. When she looked back, her face had changed. The quiet obedience was gone. Now she looked desperate. "You fell through the ceiling," she whispered. 3 weeks ago, you landed in the East Wing." Samuel's heart started pounding. "I don't lie. I saw you. I was in my room. I heard the crash. I looked out and saw you running from that hallway." She stepped closer, voice urgent. "Did you hear anything from the room?" Samuel knew he should deny it. Every instinct said lie. But looking into Margaret's eyes, he told the truth. "I heard crying." Margaret's face went white. For a second, Samuel thought she might fall. Then she steadied herself, one hand on the wall. "How long?" Samuel began. "Don't ask me that. Don't ask me anything. I can't." She struggled for a moment, like she was fighting herself. Then she spoke. "My father is not well. He hasn't been well for a long time." "What's in that room?" "It's a sickness. Not of the body, of the mind. And there's nothing any of us can do about it. But if someone is suffering—" "She's beyond suffering now," Margaret said. The words came out like a sob she'd held back for years. "She's beyond everything. And the kindest thing anyone can do is leave her in peace." "She," Samuel whispered. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "I've said too much. Please forget what you heard. Forget this conversation. And whatever you do, stay away from that room." She hurried away. Samuel stood alone in the hallway, mind spinning. News of Fort Sumter reached Warren County on April 15, 1861. Mississippi had already left the Union. Now war was real. The plantation buzzed with talk and fear. What would war mean for them? Would Union soldiers come through Mississippi? Would the enslaved people be freed? Would the plantation survive? Master Belmont called everyone together on the morning of April 16th. He stood on the veranda, face serious, and spoke words Samuel never forgot. "Warren County will be called to defend the state and our cause. I will arrange supplies for the Confederate forces. The work of this estate will continue exactly as always. Our routines will not change. Our rules will not change. And anyone who thinks this war will change the order of things under my roof is badly mistaken." His eyes moved across the crowd, stopping for a moment on Samuel. "The rules that govern this property exist for reasons you cannot understand. They will be enforced more strictly now than ever before. Is that clear?" A quiet, "Yes, sir," came from the crowd. "Then return to your work." That evening, Joseph found Samuel behind the stable. "He knows," Joseph said, no greeting. Samuel felt cold dread. "Knows what?" "That you've been asking questions. Watching." "He knows, Samuel. Master Belmont knows everything that happens here. And now with war starting, he's going to be even more careful, even more dangerous. I haven't told anyone. Doesn't matter. He sees it in how you move, how you look at the house. I've seen it before." Joseph's voice dropped low. "There was a man here 6 years ago, before you started working close to the house. Name was Daniel. He was curious too. Started asking about that room. Started watching the East Wing. What happened to him? Transferred. That's what Master Belmont told us. Sold to a plantation in Louisiana. But Daniel's wife was here too. She swore her husband would never leave without telling her. She made trouble, went to Hugh Garrett, even tried talking to Master Belmont directly. Samuel waited. She disappeared 3 days later. Also transferred, they said. Both gone. Nobody ever heard from them again. The message was clear. Joseph finished. Don't ask about the room. Don't question Master Belmont. Don't make trouble. Are you saying he killed them? Warren County will be called to defend the state and our cause. I will arrange supplies for the Confederate forces. The work of this estate will continue exactly as always. Our routines will not change. Our rules will not change. And anyone who thinks this war will change the order of things under my roof is badly mistaken. His eyes moved across the crowd, stopping for a moment on Samuel. The rules that govern this property exist for reasons you cannot understand. They will be enforced more strictly now than ever before. Is that clear? A quiet, "Yes, sir," came from the crowd. Then return to your work. That evening Joseph found Samuel behind the stable. He knows, Joseph said, no greeting. Samuel felt cold dread. Knows what? That you've been asking questions. Watching. He knows, Samuel. Master Belmont knows everything that happens here. And now with war starting, he's going to be even more careful, even more dangerous. I haven't told anyone. Doesn't matter. He sees it in how you move, how you look at the house. I've seen it before. Joseph's voice dropped low. There was a man here 6 years ago, before you started working close to the house. Name was Daniel. He was curious too. Started asking about that room. Started watching the East Wing. What happened to him? Transferred. That's what Master Belmont told us. Sold to a plantation in Louisiana. But Daniel's wife was here too. She swore her husband would never leave without telling her. She made trouble, went to Hugh Garrett, even tried talking to Master Belmont directly. Samuel waited. She disappeared 3 days later. Also transferred, they said. Both gone. Nobody ever heard from them again. The message was clear. Joseph finished. Don't ask about the room. Don't question Master Belmont. Don't make trouble. Are you saying he killed them? Long pause. Then, God forgive me, but I accept them. The doctor left soon after. Master Belmont watched the carriage go. Then he turned and looked straight at Samuel. Their eyes met. Neither moved for a moment. Then Master Belmont spoke. Samuel. Yes, sir. Come inside. I have a task for you. Samuel's heart pounded as he followed Master Belmont into the house. They passed the foyer, went up the stairs, turned toward the study. For one terrifying second Samuel thought he was being taken to the East Wing. But Master Belmont went the other way, into his private study. The room was large, bookshelves, big desk in the center. Master Belmont closed the door. Sit down. Samuel sat. You're an intelligent young man, Belmont said, pouring himself brandy. Hugh Garrett speaks highly of you. Says you're reliable. Discreet. Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask you to do something that needs both reliability and discretion. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Belmont studied him over the glass. There are supplies in the room next to this study. Medical supplies Dr. Pritchard just brought. I need them carried to the second floor, East Wing. Place them just outside the door at the end of the hallway. Not inside. Just outside. Knock twice on the door, then leave immediately. Do not wait. Do not look around. Do the task, and come back here to tell me it's done. Understand? Yes, sir. Belmont's eyes hardened. And Samuel, if I find you've broken my trust in even the smallest way, if you lingered in that hallway, touched anything, looked through the keyhole or under the door, I will know. And the consequences will be severe. Do you understand that too? Yes, sir. The supplies were in a wooden crate. Not big, but heavy. Samuel carried it carefully up the stairs. His hands shook. His mind screamed questions. Why was Master Belmont letting him go near the door? Was this a test? A trap? He reached the second floor, turned toward the East Wing. The hallway stretched ahead, dark, silent. Shuttered windows let in only thin gray light. His footsteps echoed. With every step the air felt heavier, thick, pressing. He reached the door, knelt, set the crate down quietly. Instructions were clear, knock twice and leave. But as he raised his hand, he heard it again. From inside the room. Not crying this time. Something else. A rhythmic sound, fabric moving. And beneath it, so quiet he almost missed it, a voice. Someone was singing. The melody was broken. Words hard to hear. But the voice was female. Young. Incredibly sad. Samuel's hand froze. The singing stopped. Footsteps came closer, soft, shuffling, right up to the door. So close he could almost feel the person on the other side. A shadow crossed the thin gap under the door. Someone was standing there, listening. Samuel knocked twice, sharp, loud in the silence. Then he ran. Not walked. Ran, back to the stairs. Footsteps echoed behind him like thunder. He reported to Master Belmont. Belmont nodded curtly. Dismissed him. But the experience shook Samuel deeply. The voice singing in that room was real, alive, present, not a ghost. A real person locked in darkness. He couldn't let it go. That evening he found Joseph again. "Please," Samuel said. "Just tell me who's in that room." Joseph looked pained. "I don't know. You've been here 20 years. You must know something." "I know what I've been told. That Master Belmont's wife died in 1858. That the children are kept separate. That something in this family is broken in a way that can't be fixed." He paused. "And I know people who ask too many questions disappear." "Margaret said she's beyond suffering now," Samuel pressed. "Who did she mean? Who is the she?" "Samuel. Someone is alive in that room. I heard her. I heard her singing." Joseph's face went gray. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Joseph was quiet for a long time. Then, "There's an old woman, used to work in the main house. Name of Ruth. She was dismissed about 5 years ago. Lives in a cabin on the north edge of the property. If anyone knows the truth about that room, it's her." "But Samuel, if you go to her, if you keep doing this, there's no turning back. You understand?" "I understand." "No," Joseph said sadly. "You don't. But you will." Samuel found the cabin the next evening, small, half hidden by overgrown vines. An old woman sat on the porch smoking a pipe. Her eyes were sharp. "You're the boy who's been asking questions," she said before he spoke. "Yes, ma'am. Joseph sent you. He said you might know about the locked room." Ruth took a long pull from her pipe. Smoke curled into the evening air. "I know. And knowing cost me everything I had." "You sure you want that burden?" "I need to know." "Why? What difference does knowing make? Can you unlock that door? Can you change what's happened? Can you fix what's broken in that family?" "No." "Then why chase it?" "Because I can't unknow what I already know. And I can't stop wondering." Ruth nodded slowly. "Sit down then. I'm only telling this once." Samuel sat. "Master Belmont's wife didn't die in 1858, Ruth began. "That's the story they tell. But it's a lie. Constance Belmont is alive. And she's in that locked room." Samuel felt cold all over. "You have to understand," Ruth continued. "Thomas Belmont wasn't always like this. When he was younger, before his father died, he was almost normal. Quiet, yes, but not broken. Then he inherited the estate. The responsibility started eating him. He became obsessed with control, with order, with everything happening exactly as he planned." Ruth paused. Constance was a good woman. Kind. She tried to soften him, tried to keep warmth in that cold house. But Thomas wouldn't have it. He wanted perfection. And when Constance started showing she wasn't perfect, that's when it all went wrong. "What kind of signs?" "Melancholy. That's what doctors called it. She'd get spells, couldn't leave her bed, couldn't stop crying, couldn't find joy in anything. It got worse after the children came. Some women get that way. Dr. Pritchard said it was a sickness of the mind that comes after giving birth. Sometimes it passes, he said. Give her time. But it didn't pass. It got worse. By 1857, Constance was having times when she didn't know her own children. Forgot who she was, where she was. Wandered the house at night, talking to people who weren't there. Thomas tried to keep it quiet. Brought doctors from New Orleans. Specialists. Nothing worked. Ruth's voice dropped. Then came the day she tried to hurt herself. Margaret found her mother in the bathing room. And if the child hadn't screamed, that was the day Thomas decided Constance couldn't be trusted around the family anymore. That she was a danger. That she had to be locked away. He had the East Wing room prepared. Bars on the windows behind shutters. Locks on the door. Bed bolted to the floor. Anything she could use to hurt herself, removed. And then he moved her in there. But why not send her to an asylum? Because Thomas Belmont couldn't accept imperfection. Couldn't accept his family wasn't exactly as he planned. If Constance went to an asylum, everyone would know. The whole county would know his wife had lost her mind. His pride couldn't take it. So he made his own asylum, right in his house. Samuel felt sick, and she's been in there ever since. For years now. He tends to her himself. Brings food, medicine, keeps her clean. Won't let anyone else near her. Even Margaret and young Thomas aren't allowed to see their mother. Thomas tells them she died in 1858, and they go along with it because they're too afraid to do anything else. Margaret knows, Samuel said. She told me her mother is beyond suffering. Ruth nodded sadly. Margaret knows. The girl figured it out maybe 2 years ago. Heard her mother singing one night. But what can she do? She's 16. Powerless. trapped in that house with a father who's lost his reason. She can't free her mother, can't escape herself. So she pretends. They all pretend. And Dr. Pritchard knows too. He's known from the beginning. Thomas pays him well to keep bringing medicines. Laudanum to calm her. Tonics to keep her alive. The doctor's conscience bothers him, I'm sure. But not enough to stop taking the money. Samuel sat quiet, trying to take it all in. A woman locked away for 4 years. Hidden from the world. Cared for by a husband who'd rather imprison her than admit anything was wrong. Why did Master Belmont dismiss you, he asked. Because I made the mistake of suggesting Constance might do better with proper care. That keeping her locked up was making her worse, not better. Thomas didn't like that. I was transferred that same week. At least he let me stay on the property, in this cabin. I suppose he figured I was too old to start over somewhere else. And maybe keeping me close where he could watch me was safer than letting me leave with his secrets. Samuel walked back to the quarters that night, carrying a weight he couldn't shake. He now knew the truth. The question was, what could he do? Tell Hugh Garrett? The overseer would either not believe him, or report it straight to Master Belmont. Try to free Constance. He had no keys. Couldn't overpower Belmont. And even if he did, where would they go? A black man traveling with a white woman declared dead? They wouldn't make 10 miles that go to the authorities. The sheriff was Belmont's friend. The judge played cards with him. The law in 1861 Mississippi didn't care much about a white man's wife, especially when that man was rich and powerful. Talk to Margaret? Ask her to help? But Margaret was trapped too. Asking her to act against her father would only put her in danger. There was no good path, no way to fix it. But Samuel couldn't unknow what he knew. Couldn't unhear the singing. Couldn't forget a woman was suffering in darkness while everyone pretended she was dead. Summer came with heavy heat. The war news got worse. Samuel kept his promise. He didn't speak to anyone about the room. Didn't climb the oak tree again. Didn't ask questions. But he couldn't stop thinking. He watched Master Belmont's visits with new understanding. Tuesday and Friday afternoons. Always 2 hours, with the canvas bag. Increasingly, late-night visits too. Faint lamp light behind shutters at midnight or later, staying 30 minutes to an hour before going dark. Was Constance getting worse? Was Belmont giving her more medicine? Or was something else happening? In late July, Dr. Pritchard came back. This visit lasted longer, nearly 4 hours. When the doctor left, he looked shaken. He and Master Belmont talked on the veranda, voices too low to hear. After the doctor's carriage left, Master Belmont went up to the east wing. This time he stayed less than 30 minutes. When he came down, he carried the chair he'd taken up weeks earlier. Something had changed. On the night of August 3rd, 1861, Samuel woke to a sound. A carriage arriving at the main house, well after midnight. He looked out. Lights blazed in the house, more than usual. The carriage belonged to Dr. Pritchard. Samuel dressed quickly, slipped outside, moved through shadows toward the house, staying hidden. Dr. Pritchard came out twice. Once for his medical bag, once for a larger case Samuel didn't recognize. Both times he moved fast, urgent. Hugh Garrett appeared, woken from his quarters. Spoke briefly with the doctor. Then stood guard at the entrance. The wait went on for hours. Near dawn, Margaret appeared at a third-floor window. She stood still, white nightgown ghostly in the gray light, staring toward the east wing. As the sun rose, Dr. Pritchard finally came out. Master Belmont walked him to the carriage. They spoke for several minutes. Shook hands. The carriage pulled away. Master Belmont stood on the veranda, face gray, exhausted. Then he walked slowly back inside. Samuel knew, though no one said a word. Constance Belmont was dead. The announcement came later that morning. Master Belmont gathered everyone. Said Dr. Pritchard had been called because young Thomas had a fever. The boy was recovering. It had been a difficult night. No mention of Constance. No mention of the locked room. No mention of anything unusual. Life on the estate went on exactly as before. But Samuel noticed small changes. Master Belmont no longer made Tuesday and Friday visits to the east wing. The canvas bag disappeared from his routine. Margaret's face, always tense for as long as Samuel knew her, looked a little softer. Like a heavy weight had lifted. 3 days after that night, a plain wooden coffin arrived by carriage. It was carried in through a rear entrance, quickly, quietly. That night, after dark, the same carriage left with the coffin inside. No funeral, no burial on the property, no death notice in the paper. Constance Belmont, officially dead in 1858, could not die again in 1861. Samuel wondered, where did they take her body? Would she be buried under a false name? Or would she simply vanish, unmarked, unmourned? A week later, Master Belmont ordered the locked room cleaned and cleared. Margaret supervised it herself, she insisted. For the first time anyone saw, she directly went against her father's wishes. Master Belmont allowed it. Maybe from guilt, maybe from exhaustion. Samuel wasn't part of the cleaning, but he heard from others. The room was bare. Bed bolted to the floor, thin, stained mattress. Small table, chamber pot, bars on windows behind shutters. No mirrors, no sharp objects, nothing that could be used to harm. But there were other things. Hundreds of pages of writing, everywhere. Constance had written on paper when she had it, on walls when she didn't. Some pages were clear, letters to her children she could never send, diary entries about her days, prayers for release. Some were the confused ramblings of a broken mind, song fragments, repeated words, meaningless lines. Margaret had everything collected, burned every page, every scrap. She stood and watched the fire, making sure nothing survived. She deserves to be remembered as she was before, Margaret told the servant helping her. Not as she became. Summer turned to autumn. The war dragged on, no end in sight. Warren County sent more men to fight. The cotton crop was harvested and sent to Confederate depots. Master Belmont seemed to age years and months. His perfect routines began to slip. Missed meals, forgot meetings, sat in his study for hours, staring at nothing. Young Thomas grew stronger, almost as if his mother's death had freed him from some invisible illness. He started going outside, learning to ride, showing interest in the estate. And Margaret changed too. She began taking over household duties her father once controlled, spoke directly to Hugh Garrett about estate matters. Once, in front of everyone, she countermanded one of her father's orders about punishing a worker who broke a tool. Master Belmont said nothing. It was as if something inside him had finally broken. The locked room stayed empty. The door stood open now, locks removed. Sunlight came through windows where Margaret had ordered the shutters torn down. It was just a room. Nothing strange. Nothing haunted. Just a room where a woman had been kept in darkness for 4 years until she died. September brought cooler air, and a visit Samuel had feared. Master Belmont called him to the study. "Samuel," he said when Samuel arrived, "I owe you something." He opened a desk drawer, pulled out a leather pouch. "Your freedom papers, properly notarized and legal, and $500 in gold. Enough to start a new life wherever you choose." Samuel stared at the pouch, couldn't move. "I'm keeping my word," Belmont said. "You kept my secret. You kept my wife's dignity, even after you knew the truth. Now I'm giving you what I promised. You're free to leave whenever you want." Samuel slowly took the pouch, felt its weight. Freedom. Real freedom. Everything he'd ever wanted. "There's no obligation to stay," Belmont continued. "But if you choose to remain and work for wages, you'd be welcome. The choice is yours." Samuel looked at the man across the desk. Thomas Belmont no longer looked like the hard, controlling master. He looked broken, hollow, barely holding on. "Did you love her?" Samuel asked. "Your wife. Did you really love her? Or was the locked room just about your pride?" Belmont was quiet for a long time. "I don't know anymore. I thought I was protecting her, protecting all of us. But now, I don't know what I was doing. I only know it's over. And I have to live with what I've done." Samuel thought of Ruth's words, thought of Margaret at the window, thought of the crying he'd heard behind that door. "I'll stay," he said finally. "For now. But I'm staying as a free man, working for wages. And if I choose to leave, I'll leave." "I understand," Belmont said. "And Master Belmont." "Yes. The locked room. What you did. You say you don't know if it was love or pride. But I think you do know. And I think that's the real prison you're living in now." Belmont's face crumpled slightly. He nodded, couldn't speak. Samuel left the study, freedom papers in his pocket, walked out into the autumn afternoon. The war continued for 4 more years. The Confederacy fell in 1865. Slavery ended. Samuel's freedom papers, from 1861, became something rare. He had been free years before emancipation. He left Belmont Estate in 1866, used the gold to buy land in Tennessee, started a new life, married, raised children, lived to see the new century. He never forgot the locked room. Sometimes, Late in life, he told the story to his grandchildren, not as a ghost tale, not as horror, but as a reminder of something darker and more real. That the worst cruelties are not always done out of hate. Sometimes they are done out of love, twisted into something unrecognizable. That good intentions can build prisons, and that the locked room was never haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by choices, and those hauntings last the longest. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next one.